a pleasure to be with you all today, and just a very exciting agenda for us because India is where action is happening on water, which is why I think you called it the World of Water Action Forum. There is a real need with issues of water shortages, so people are focused on conservation, rainwater capture, wastewater reuse, and that's where what we share in these sessions every first Friday. And today's first Friday, we're going to look at the opportunity also to support schools with RainReach before we introduce two very exceptional young professionals who are innovating to create a brighter future for water. We will have Amanda Gann, a Fulbright scholar who actually spent time in Bangalore with in your very city, looking at how design elements of the city could support better water resources in the future, and also engaging people with the rivers with an artistic and storytelling model that could be applied to any water resource. And then Kaiden Simon is joining us. He woke up very early. He's from California, and he is a sophomore, I believe, and maybe you can correct me when you're on, Kaiden, in a school right off the coast of California, was motivated by an erosion problem there to create a software that actually detects where erosion could be occurring so best management practices can be put in place. But I want to turn it over to Raj Rajaram right now. And Nikki, if you have any visuals to just briefly share about the power of RainReach, which you helped start, Raj, if you could.
Mary, thank you so much. We have a saying, in English saying, go for the low-hanging fruit first before you start climbing a tree and get the fruits. And RainReach or rainwater harvesting is the easiest one to do, accessible to everybody in society. And so, including the young people. So RainReach is just a mobilization of this power of rainwater, which God gives us in plenty, but He gives it whenever the atmospheric conditions are right. So we have to catch it at the right time, store it in our aquifers, in tanks, underground tanks, overhead tanks, and then use it wisely. This is what RainReach is all about. And if we get the high school kids involved, that will be a real awareness creation. Because right now, as high school kids, they can tell their parents to start practicing some of these things. And then when they grow up, they will be responsible citizens in the usage of water, conservation of water. So I'm very, very excited about RainReach. So for the last 2+ years, I've just said, I have to put money where my mouth is. So I have put some funding to get RainReach started in a few schools in Bangalore. But the scope is so huge in India and all over the world that this has to become a global movement, not just national movement. So with that, and with young people like Nikki supporting us with wonderful visuals and videos, we can really go viral with this and capture the masses. I just finished reading Gandhiji's autobiography on his birthday yesterday, and he just spread the word in those days just with leaflets to get people to join the Swaraj movement, to join the independence movement. If he could do it with just leaflets, printing and distributing it to people, now we have so many sophisticated tools to get the message out to people. We have to do it, and this is my plea to everyone. Please tell your friends, tell your family that this is important, and every little counts. People can give 100 rupees, 500 rupees, doesn't matter, but they get involved. And corporates have a responsibility to make sure that we have water. If society doesn't have water, they can't run their industries. So corporates have to contribute to this effort. So with that, and Rotary and Lions, I'm trying to get some Lions money from Oakbrook to Bangalore. We are trying Rotary. So let's try all these avenues to get funding and get more and more schools involved in RainReach and more kids taking pledges like this, like you see here. Kids, but 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th grade, taking a pledge like this that I will conserve water, I will not waste water, and I will capture rainwater. This is so inspiring to everyone. And so let us continue this wonderful work that Hari has started a few years ago, is gathering momentum now, and we should not stop at this. When the momentum is picking up, we have to really increase it and make it Bangalore-wide, India-wide, global. Thank you. And I'd
Yes.
like to hear the young people now.
Oh, I put a link in the chat so that anyone can go see more about RainReach and invest. And Felix, who is here from Africa, has actually seen the scaling, the opportunity to expand on RainReach. Felix, I'm wondering if you could just comment on what it's meant there in Bomet County in Kenya. And I'm hoping you are still on. If you could unmute Felix or Festus.
Felix, can you speak up?
Can you hear me?
That's right. Thank you. Yeah, we can hear you. Yes. Good afternoon to you again.
So, good afternoon. So, concerning Bomet County, there has been a lot of changes brought by the rainwater harvesting systems, which has been put in place. Mainly, there's been an improvement in the community, mainly the local people over there, the young men whom we have been working together, especially been achieved, have improved, and the hygiene has been improved greatly. And also concerning the time this preparation and housekeeping activities before they go to school has been greatly reduced, because there has been a lot of time which has been wasted before the play.
Right.
Yeah.
I must.
Can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Yes,
Go on.
yes, I think that's excellent, Felix. I think what we were excited about is that you're able to focus on bringing the youth to school rather than
Right.
having them walk or having them be sick from the contaminated local polluted waterways. So it has.
Mary, I must add that Raj has been this year focusing on how he can support many of these projects in East Africa. Raj, you want to say something about it in the next few seconds?
Yes, I think my brother was there for the last 3 weeks there, and he saw the work that I've been doing with Engineers Without Borders, and he invested his own money to make sure the kids in the school of 600 have nutritious food. So we have bought an acre plus of land, and we are going to do sustainable farming.
This is in a province called Bakunde in Western Kenya. Go on, Raj.
Yeah. Bukembe in Western Kenya. And so this is a movement catching on, where my friend Malali Gowda went there to inaugurate the first school of forest farmers and organic farmers in Western Kenya. And he went to safari in Masai Mara and met several people in Nairobi. And he has become an evangelist, and he's got so many other people in Kenya talking about water conservation, about agricultural productivity. And so this is where we can connect people around the world. There is a person from Bangalore coming all the way, my brother going from US, and they meet there, and we start a movement to start organic farming, forest farming, so that we keep our planet green while producing the food that we need.
Right.
And so this is something, and I'm working with the kids all the time, teaching about climate change and environment. Started an environmental club, and the environmental club composed of students from 7th to 12th grade are planting trees all around their community, cleaning up potholes in their streets, things like that. If young people have the energy, who have the energy, are guided in the right direction to start taking care of the environment, their community, then the whole world will be a wonderful place. So this is what I'm doing and putting all my efforts, all my connections in Kenya for the next few years, because I have a wonderful receptive team that is working with me and improving computer education, also sending computers from here to schools there. So all these things are possible. All you need is a heart to help others and get the connectivity going among people.
Right.
And then wonderful things will happen. That's my
One of
experience, and I
yes,
request all to
yes,
follow
Raj.
this.
Yeah.
Thank
One of 8 books I think that Raj has written. His first set of books were all on engineering and water management. Toward the end, about a year and a half, 2 years ago, he wrote a book on the joy of giving. What is the title, Raj, of that book?
Golden Giving.
Absolutely, Golden Giving, right? And Dr. Biradar, he mentioned Dr. Malali Gowda. Malali Gowda is also from the US here. Probably you know him, but I will introduce you to him someday. Over to you, Mary.
Yes, well, I just want to acknowledge there are many experts on this call who can contribute to these conversations. And I know we're all eager to see how the next generation is addressing our water challenges.
I think the next
So
30 minutes, all of us who are past 40 should shut up and not talk and let the millennials and the Gen Z take over. Yeah.
yes, well, I'm going to follow that lead as well. And just to set the context, both Amanda and Kaiden will talk about the challenge that they saw, how they got involved, what they did, what they learned, and what they recommend. And then after they both share their stories, we will open it up to questions and welcome your comments in the chat. But thank you all for joining us. If you can't stay, we will put a recording up on this. So, but delighted to have you all here. And Amanda, delighted, most importantly, because of your Bangalore background. I hope you'll bring up your slides and share the beautiful story. And Amanda is also a founder of Little Bird Creative, helping different water organizations market themselves and engage more youth, engage people of all generations in water. And I think, I'm not seeing you on my screen. Oh, you are there. Great. Okay. So happy to turn it over to you, Amanda.
Sorry, I'm navigating Zoom after not having navigated Zoom in a while. So apologies for my iniquities. Hi, everyone.
That's great.
Hi. Okay, good. Everybody can see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. My name is Amanda Gann, hailing from Nashville, Tennessee, where I was raised, in a riverine landscape that was flowing with water. I spent the majority of my childhood traipsing through creeks and rivers and just spending so much time in nature. As I kind of went to school and realized, I actually went to school for architecture and started to realize the impact that we have as humans on this planet. Year after year through architecture school, I started to see what development was doing to the land that I loved, to the rivers, to the lakes, to the streams that I spent so much time in. And I became very concerned by that. Even in my second year, I started really like thinking about the movement of water and the way in which water interacted with design. And so every single building you can see throughout my portfolio has something to do with water. I got to the point where my professors would ask me if I was going to design a building or if I was just going to care about how water moved. And I said, hopefully I can do both. And so that led me to apply for a Fulbright in 2018 for India. I studied kind of the global water stressors and narrowed it down to 6 countries, India being the top one, because of the sort of trajectory of change and the way in which development was happening so rapidly to the point where the infrastructure couldn't necessarily keep up. And just looking specifically at Bangalore as a prime example because of its distance from the perennial water source, the growth that it's seen since 1980, and the projected growth and what that would do to these ecosystems that I loved so much. So in 2018, I applied. 2020, March 2020, I was awarded the grant, which meant that I had to play the waiting game for 2 years to finally get to India. If I can move forward, this is just kind of where I'm hailing from. As you can see, it's a very green space. These are the rivers and the lakes that I have grown up around. So you can see where my affections lie. I'm going to be talking about 2 projects, one being my research, which I'm going to touch on lightly, and then one being an outreach program that we did through a climate festival, which very much touches on a lot of the work that many of you are doing with educational systems and with schools. I was based in Bangalore, and I was really studying kind of the water space, like the hydrological landscape. How does water flow? What does development do to that? And then how can we potentially intervene to create better systems of interaction? So I just mapped the landscape, trying to understand where the water was coming from, where it lands, and where it flows. Really focusing on this particular region, which is the Dakshina-Pinakini, which many of you are familiar with. But how does it actually flow from the South Pennar River all the way down to the Bay of Bengal? And then what are we doing, citizens of Bangalore, when I was a citizen of Bangalore and studying the impact to contribute to that, whether in a positive or negative way? Sadly, I saw a lot of negative impact. But one of the things that I kind of was really curious about was, where are the investments happening in the city, and how could we potentially intervene in those? So I studied the transit-oriented development plans, all of the urban master plans of the city, and narrowed down this particular area called the Satellite Town Ring Road in Anand, and looked at the potential of integrating water systems actually into the rivers or into the roadways that were being redesigned. So if we could capture, clean, and then recharge the water, we would have more supply. We would have the aquifer that many people depend on. We would also have management systems such that it wouldn't flood as bad. And there are all these kind of solutions that exist readily available, but could be integrated into the policies that were put in place in this design. So I just kind of experienced this water landscape of Bangalore. This was not even 10 minutes walk from my house. This is the Agara Lake. And you can see how many of the systems are integrating. This is the sewage system that's going into a retention pond, which then goes into a wetland and into the lake. Bangalore is known for its lakes, and this is kind of a new system of managing that water. You can see some of the kind of issues, which are still solid waste management, which leads to a lot of kind of plant growth, and many people can kind of speak more on that. And then this was one of the most compelling, like most powerful images that I took. These are all my photographs, but just thinking about like the eutrophication of this water and the potential of kind of intervening in that to make it a better place for not only us as people, but also the plants and wildlife that depend on it. If anybody has not been to Bangalore, this is a Rajakalve, which is sort of a canal that snakes through the city. And it was once what would be called a creek or a river. And this is kind of how the water moves through the system. I really engaged with a lot of people throughout the landscape, talked to urban farmers, talked to people, talked to experts, just about how we can implement different strategies of taking care of this landscape and so that people can grow food and live more sustainably. I partnered with one of my colleagues, Pinky Chandran, who was also walking the same landscape, and we kind of integrated this. This was our first point of outreach, which was for Global Climate Change Week. We created this workshop series called Collective Water to really think through and raise awareness and also amplify the voices.
Amanda, can I stop you here?
Yeah,
Maybe
sure.
you want to take this off and give us your earnest, sincere reflections on what you think is wrong with the way communities are responding to you or to the rest of the people who are working with you. You have not been part of the WOW Action Forum, and over 180 such meetings, a lot of this has been traversed. We all know about K100. We know about Dakshin Pinakini. I have traversed probably 80 kilometers of that. We are now working on the Arkavati and the mess. There is a lady here, called Madhuri, who has been doing some enormous work in both these areas, right? These are experts in water. What do we want to know? As Mary keeps telling us all, and she must have told you, what do you think we need to be doing to help you if we are that older generation? And what do you think you hold as accountability for those who are going to be your age by 2040 or 45? I think we don't want to listen to a presentation. We want to listen to your heart speak.
Okay. I think the biggest thing is really understanding how the empowerment system works, right? Like I mean, there are so many solutions that exist out there, right? And
Absolutely.
that's partially why I'm showing these projects, because ultimately I realized while I was there that like these do exist. The research is there. We can talk about this all day long, but how are we actually engaging with the people that are going to take action? And so the efforts of the collective water workshop and the Rivers of Life workshop, which I was going to get to, was really thinking through like, how do we engage with the community? And so I think just like these are examples of how do we engage in the community? How do we empower the voices of the students to actually engage with them and educate them? Because I think ultimately the power is a little bit still with your generation, though I think the impact and the potential for power is obviously within the next generation. And so really thinking through like, what does my generation know about caretaking and stewardship? And then how are we able to actually think through and make an impact ourselves? Like, how are we empowered? And so I think it comes down to amplifying the voices of the younger generation that do have these ideas. Like we will hear from Kaiden and his solution, and it's really just about like understanding and hearing those solutions and taking them to action. Like I think it comes down to partnership, and that's what I also saw with the Rivers of Life exhibition itself, was like really engaging with these students, and they didn't know about these systems. Like many of the students that we engage with Rivers of Life had never seen a river like in its truest form. And so I think there's some exposure that needs to happen at a larger scale. And then also just thinking through like giving back the power to the people that will be affected most, and kind of creating systems of continuous engagement. I know Mary has talked a lot about the engagement that she's doing locally with teaching students about lakes and teaching students about these systems, like having them hold fish and having them really engage in this kind of one-to-one experience, because hearing about it in a presentation or hearing about it from YouTube or any of these places that are kind of disconnecting doesn't give you the opportunity to do what I did when I was growing up, which was like get my hands dirty and actually like dig around in the lake and dig around in the creek and get to know that system in an intimate way. And so I think there's that. It's exposure, it's empowerment, and it's engagement. And so I'm excited
Yeah, and
to
Amanda,
those.
yeah, so I love the way you look at what they need and engage, middle class as well as any class student who has not been out in the riverways as you were able to do. You mentioned, and it intrigued me, the uniqueness of every story and your acknowledgement that you can't tell the stories of how people experience water. Could you maybe share a little bit about that? What you learned was that, everyone has a different experience, but I'd rather hear it from your voice on what you think we need to do in order to acknowledge these different experiences and incorporate all generations plus, all eco
I think
ethnicities.
the biggest lesson that I took away from my time in India was the power of listening. I think as researchers, specifically Western researchers, like I know that I came over with a disconnection, and I know that I came over with sort of like I had ideas of what I was going to do and how I was going to do it. And what was so powerful was engaging with like 12-year-olds that asked really, really good questions, and farmers who had 25 years of experiencing this river, and every single one of those stories being able to be like connecting with those people, like actually having that opportunity to see it from their perspective and to understand the nuance of this landscape through so many different people's eyes. I think that highlighted the power of story, and that highlighted the importance of amplifying the voices of the people that are experiencing that versus kind of objectifying it as a designer itself. Like I really appreciate this kind of reorientation, because I think I get kind of sucked into this idea of telling about my experience when really most of my work was about sharing the experience of others. And every single one of these bays in this exhibition itself was someone's story, and even stories about stories. So I think it really comes down to listening and being humble enough to be incorrect with our assumptions, and then to do something about that, to actually take action in the other direction if it was against what we had known in the past.
Right. That's beautiful. So please continue with your session and let us know what you'd like us to do, because of what you learned from that future generation, and how we all need to be sensitive to.
I think one of the things that, I mean, even in the prep call with Kaiden, and I know he's probably going to touch on this, we both experienced these kind of like blockades with regard to the system that we were entering, right? So both of us needed data, both of us needed information. And I think one thing that really inhibits the action that we all are seeking is actually being able to do something scientific about it, right? Like actually have the data and actually be able to use it and have systems that we can plug it into and all those things. So I think that my request from the people that actually have access is to make it more accessible to all, and to continue to kind of, I guess invite us into the conversations, invite us into the action, invite us in, not just tell us what to do, not necessarily educate us, but really invite us to join the team and to be part of those conversations and to be part of the action. Because I think that's really where, at least for me, that was the most surprising thing of Bangalore, that the system that you got, I don't know what's in the water, I don't know, but everybody seems so collaborative and so inviting and so humble. Like every single scholar I talked to was like, yes, I will share this with you. Yes, I will do this, like help you out in whatever way you can, whatever way I can. And that doesn't exist everywhere. And so I think whatever is in the water there, whatever is in the hearts of each of you, because you've started something like this, I hope that spreads, and I hope that we can do that for each generation that's coming.
Nikki, you have been listening to Amanda. You've been working for at least the last, say, 6 years with God knows how many communities across India and in Bangalore, right? What is your candid perception? I know that sometimes when we are in the thick of these things, Nikki, anything that we say will sometimes sound to somebody else a little cynical, a little disbelieving. But having said that, I want to see how you want to respond to her. You're probably a few years older to her, Nikki.
Thanks. I know it's wonderful. What Amanda has been saying is great. And what what I've seen in my experience is there are two parts to it. One is large kind of capital expenditure that governments want to do, or people who want to work and create like large scale impact want to do, which is like large capital expenditure. One example of it I can give you is these things called fecal sludge treatment plants. I think Amanda, you were talking about this. earlier in some of the recording. And so I was part of an organization that has installed close to about 110 fecal sludge treatment plants across the state of Tamil Nadu. As a technology, it's great because it's low energy, it's little to no energy, etc., etc. And you put the the trucks, what are called honeysuckers, will take the sludge from your septic tank and dump it into this fecal sludge into this treatment plant, and then there's a gravity based whatever for it, and so on and so forth. There are a couple of issues that we have been finding with this kind of large scale kind of capital expenditure. One, this is way too expensive. I mean, like, in the sense that what can be done at home and what can be done at maybe 1/10 the cost at home is now kind of expanded into like a larger kind of, you don't do anything at home, we will do it for you, which kind of disconnects people from what they need to do and how they can connect to, to fecal sludge, to water, to any of the other things. And then what's happening now is, like, now we have a surplus of dried sludge, or what they call compost, but it's not really compost, because here's another very interesting thing. Earlier, I mean, we didn't use, like, chemicals to clean our toilets and stuff like that. Now we do. And what that is doing is killing all the microbes in the sludge itself. So that sludge is basically useless. Over years of testing now, we've come to realize, like, we can only co-compost it with, organic waste and other organic waste and things like that.
I'm just saying, Nikki, somewhere that there is a resistance from the government, or a very gentle persuasion that influences the youngsters working in these areas into going the centralized way and not the decentralized and the localized way. For example, that large, abominable system that one of those organizations, I can't take names in a group like this, has been promoting, and one of which has been set up as a model in Chennai at an atrocious cost, right? At per kiloliter or per kilo of compost, let us say, or of sludge. Now, how do we stop people from doing those things, and how do we get people to see the power of localized solutions? Amanda, maybe you want to respond to that, or Nikki, both of you.
Sure, go on, Amanda.
Oh, I was just saying that one of the things that actually was amazing to see was the citizen action in Bangalore, like, itself. I didn't grow up in places where a ton of people volunteered to clean up, and that was kind of like something that you did because someone sort of made you. Like, it was like a church activity, or like a group was part of it. But I remember I met, like, the group of Jolly Potion and the SWMRT group, like, all these citizen groups that actually exist, that just came together and said, this is a problem, I would like to solve it, and I can't necessarily depend on the government to do that. I think there is such a, I don't know if this is global, but I know that in the United States, there's such a dependency on the government to solve all of our problems, and to kind of waste or to sort of wait for the support of a larger system, even if it's like your city or your town or whatever. And so I just was so inspired by the fact that people were coming together and actually just doing it themselves with no requirement.
Right.
Yeah, so that's something that I just
how do we have more of that, Amanda? What do you think we ought to be doing, I mean, as citizens here in Bangalore, to accelerate such enthusiasm among community and create more such communities?
It's interesting because I joined this group. I don't even remember what it was called. It was somebody had told me about it. It was like a group of youth that were cleaning up. I think we met in Cubbon Park.
Right.
But it was an environmental group, and I was so excited about it, and then I couldn't find them. And so it was like
I will introduce you to them. Nikki also knows them very well. You can connect with me later.
Yeah.
Kaiden Simon. Sorry, Amanda.
No, go ahead.
Yeah. No, I thought, 15 minutes down the road, after this wonderful little exchange between the two of you, wow, look at that picture.
Beautiful.
Yeah. And you're looking pretty wonderful out there, Amanda. Kaiden Simon, very, very good morning to you. It must be what, 5:30 a.m. out there in
Yeah,
California.
bright and early.
Absolutely. Go on, Kaiden. You want to say something? Mary must have a very, very good reason for having invited you to speak today.
Of course. Thank you. I just wanted to say, first of all, that what you're doing is very beautiful, and I just really appreciate it. So I'm going to share my screen here.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
And as
Oh,
Kaiden,
here's Erosia.
yeah. Yeah, it's beautiful how the two of you tag team, because Amanda is bringing in the people to see things and Kaiden is using the data to help people visualize
Wow.
where action can happen.
How-
And I'll let you explain, Kaiden. Thank
Can I-
you. And
Can I ask you, Kaiden, how old are you?
I'm 16, sir.
Wow. Great. Go on. Go on.
Let's see. Here we go. So yeah, I'm just going to be going over, first of all, the reason why I started Erosia, and also what I'm doing right now. What are the current case studies where I'm at with Erosia, and also the future, right? What can we learn from Erosia, and what can we do in order to better understand how flow occurs throughout landscape? So my reasoning for starting Erosia is that my favorite surf spot as a Californian, I love to surf. And my favorite surf spot ever, San Onofre, was actually decimated by erosion. Here's actually a picture of it on the site. And a place called home. I used to go there every single Saturday with my friends. And for a very long period of time, that wasn't the case anymore because erosion completely decimated it. And no one could go there. A place called home was also taken away from hundreds of other surfers. And I just feel like something had to be done in order to prevent situations like this. So why did this actually happen, right? The main reason why this happened is because San Onofre, if you look at any images of it, it's all bare soil. And the reason for this is because the cliffs are so steep, the terrain is so dangerous to navigate. The standard ways that people usually use in order to know where to put erosion management practices like sidewalks was simply impossible because of how dangerous the landscape was. And because of that, San Onofre remained complete bare soil. There was no management practices. There was no vegetative cover because they didn't know where to put it. They can't just plaster around management practices everywhere. That's too expensive. You know, we can't cover the entire beach in sediment basin traps. That, first of all, that would look ugly, and it's also very expensive. And so as a result of this, the actual road to the beach was completely eroded away after a very recent storm surge.
Mhm.
And so in terms of present, what Erosia is, it's a lightweight software that allows you to visualize, first of all, where erosion is happening, and also where it's happening, where it's low and high, where it's happening the most, and also what management practices should you use in order to mitigate erosion, and which ones will reduce it the most. And so in collaboration with Hydrodynamics Inc. in Colorado, what I did was I ran Erosia on one of their highway construction sites in order to compare Erosia's predictions with actual erosion occurrences that happened on the site while they were working on it in order to see if there's any correlation. And so as you can see, Erosia not only visualizes how erosion is happening, but it also shows in green and yellow and red where erosion is high and low. So as you can see, red is where erosion is happening the most. And then also yellow, that's medium. And it shows how erosion flows throughout the landscape. And this really lets you see the bigger picture of not just a singular hill slope like most people measure erosion. They look at one hill slope and calculate the erosion rate for that. And that provides no visualization as to the bigger picture of what's happening here. And so not only does erosion visualize erosion, but it shows how every single erosion channel is connected. And that way, when you actually look at this map, you're able to see if we were to put a management practice here, this would not only stop this erosion stream, but it would also stop a connection of erosion streams that all start to run off here. And as you can see, these labels, this right here was a completely unexpected. So during the construction of this highway, Hydrodynamics Inc. actually confirmed that in this exact area, there was an unexpected runoff that caused a runoff into another stream down here. This image doesn't show it, but with their current methodology that they were using, they had no idea this would have happened because they were just looking at topographic models and they were just running things like Russell 2, which is a simply numeric equation. There has absolutely no visualization. And so just getting this bigger picture and seeing how every single possible erosion scenario by using math and hydrology to see how every single piece of water will flow throughout the landscape really lets you see every single scenario that can happen. And we can also use the BMP tool from Erosia to actually see which management practice works the best. So what you're able to do is, and unfortunately, because slideshows, we can't really show this feature, but what Erosia allows you to do is it allows you to select different management practices. And all you do is just draw out where you want to put the management practice, and it'll give you numbers on how much it'll reduce the erosion rate. And this just lets you compare which management practice will give you the best ROI if you were to apply it in a very large area. And so what can we learn from Erosia, right? So first of all, action. We're able to take more informed decisions because we know exactly where erosion is happening the most. And also, we also know how erosion is flowing. So if we see that there's a large stream connected, as seen in this image, if we put management practices here, it's going to stop a lot of flow that's connected to this. It's going to stop all the discharge that's happening over here. And also budget. Management practices are expensive. And instead of just coding them all, and instead of just coding your area of management practices because you saw that there may be a stream here through a site walk, you know exactly which streams are going to be the most problematic. And so you can prioritize where you put your management practices according to that. And also knowledge, where exactly is the erosion happening, right? Softwares like Russell 2. Russell 2 is a very popular software in the United States. It's a numerical model. So you plug in a bunch of different numbers and in return, it gives you a number and it gives you a numerical rate. And like hypothetically, if you're bleeding, softwares like Russell 2 are going to tell you that you're bleeding, right? It's going to tell you your erosion rate, but it's not going to tell you where you're bleeding. So as a result, you just cover your entire body in Band-Aids in order to just cover up that one cut. Whereas softwares like Erosia is going to tell you both that you're bleeding and it's also going to tell you where you're bleeding. That way it can just put the Band-Aid on that exact cut and stop the bleeding. And I just want to say thank you. I'm really excited to be here.
Wonderful. Why don't you show us your charming face, Kaiden, if I may?
I tried to get my camera working, and
how's that?
sadly yeah.
Why it isn't working?
If I turn it on, can you see me?
Well, we see something there. There's
No,
a blue screen, a green screen, or
we
whatever.
see a disaster signal. I
That's okay.
think.
Maybe you can stop the share, but wonderful. Wonderful to hear someone, in what? You're in what, grade 10, grade 12?
Well, 11th.
Okay, 11. Raj, your take on it.
Yes.
You've spent 60 years there. What do you think, kids like Kaiden are doing? And you spent a good chunk of your time there in California, Raj.
Yeah.
Yes.
No, this is amazing for Kaiden to do this. My daughter lives in California. I constantly see the erosion whenever I go there of the slopes, the beaches, and for a 16-year-old to say something has got to be done about it. My son-in-law also goes surfing, but he just surfs and gets back to his life.
Right.
But seeing what is happening, what can I do,
Yeah.
and doing this 3D visualization is so amazing. And how erosion channels are so connected. Understanding that and putting the resources where needed and taking the right action. Kaiden, I salute you for your efforts. Please get some people from the California agencies to come and see your work and start funding young people like you. Go to schools and encourage this kind of thing instead of saying experts know everything and just give the money to huge consulting firms to spend their money on.
I know. In fact,
So,
you're right.
Then
If I-
Amanda's work is amazing. I need to leave now for another meeting,
All right.
but Amanda's work, I'll be in touch with you, Amanda. You know, there's so much you're doing on listening to people. Because I worked with Engineers Without Borders for many years, and their community, many people used to go in the past to countries like Africa and say, we know the system, just do this. And I would tell them, hey, you don't understand their culture, what their needs are, what their operating and maintenance, you know, capacities are, and you're giving a system which is not applicable. So it's slowly changing, and EWB is doing that all around the world, understanding the community, having an agreement with the community, how they will work with us and we will work with them. Unless that is firmly established, we don't spend an hour of engineering or a dollar of our money into a project. So this kind of listening to the community, understanding their needs fully, and then responding to it appropriately, respecting their wishes is so important. And you people are doing the right thing. And I just wish there were more young people like this stepping up.
Yeah.
Thank you. With that, I'm going to
Hey,
leave now.
Kaiden, yeah, thanks, Raj. Kaiden, how did you get other people to sort of share your concern and do something about it? How many got to working with you, Kaiden?
So I've actually collaborated with quite a few people. Of course, I've collaborated with the lovely Mary Eggert. This is the most recent one. And I've also managed to get into contact with Dr. Gerald Fifield, who is a hydrologist who's been in the industry for over 50 years. But through my process of getting into contact with you, one thing I realized is that for someone like me, the entrance into this industry was so unnecessarily hard. You know, when I was cold calling, I actually had to cold call for the most part, calling up random scientists, calling up different industries, calling up different civil engineering firms, trying to share my idea, trying to get them in meetings so I can present. And the amount of times I was either hung up on or rejected was astonishing. And so, you know, if there's one thing I could take away from this is that I feel this industry definitely needs to be a lot more open to high schoolers or younger people who have these ideas on how we can improve their systems, even if they've been using certain engineering systems for such a long period of time that they're so used to it. I still feel like there's definitely room for improvement. And I feel like we've trapped ourselves into this autonomous system that we kind of follow. Here's the boxes we need to check. Here is the process we need to do. Here's the erosion prevention plan we must follow. And that is the automated system we follow.
No one is listening, Kaiden. Is that what you're saying? No one is
Right.
listening, right?
Right.
What do you think we need to do to change that?
Well, I say we should open our ears, you know? I feel like we should just be more open to.
Exactly what Amanda said. You know, she says, you heard her. She says, you know, one thing that changed for her was that the art of listening sort of improved for her. Amanda? Yes? You got to unmute.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that it's so interesting because I'm sort of in between like ages. So I'm both like an elder to him and a youth to you, but it's an interesting space to be in because I think people still don't see me as an expert. And I think that was also and I think that was actually good in some ways because I was like, oh, I have so much to learn from this place and from these people that I had no capacity to even learn from afar.
Oh, it's worse than that, isn't it? Kaiden, forget about you're not an expert. Oh, how can you know anything at all at your age? Is this sort of
Right.
attitude we bring, right?
Right.
And while Amanda is gracious in saying that she, learned to listen better, what she didn't say is that all those fogies that she was working with, they just stopped listening and hearing. Is that right, Kaiden?
Right.
What do we do about this? You hit it, both of you. What do you think we should do about this? There's another young lady here. She's a teacher. She must be in her late 20s. Her name is Kashfa. If you look at the participants list, you'll see a name called Kashfa there. Now, Kashfa has the same challenge. In a school, the teachers are not willing to listen. The administration is not willing to listen. But she wants to do things with the kids. Kashfa, you want to speak?
Good evening, everyone. Thank you, sir. Yeah, so when I started working on the Devrai project, that was an initiative
It's a
which
sacred grove. Devra is
yeah,
a sacred grove, Amanda and Kaiden and the rest of you. Yeah, go on, Kashfa.
yeah, Sacred Grove Plantation. So just to put across the ideas and to get the things done on the ground level, yes, it took time, and to make people understand that how is it going to be beneficial in the long run. So yeah, sir, finally it is coming, in steps, baby steps, and I'm really sure that things will work. So it is like people will ask you, several questions. Is it required? Like we're already working on something else or the other on a similar pattern. So, what is so unique about it? And then to persuade them to get things done, not everybody comes along. So, this is a tough task.
So how did you manage to convince them that a sacred grove of, of a dense forest patch is needed in that half acre that you are planning at the school?
So it's just about half acres. So I think my vice principal was very keen. She understood and
Mhm,
she told, "Okay, let's go with it. We will try." So that was the best part, which I came across. And
mhm.
anyways, to work on the exact plan of Sacred Grove, yeah, it is a daunting task because we need to have different species of those specific plants. So the next hurdle is like, am I going to get all those specific ones? Will it be on a large scale? How many saplings will I be able to procure? But we are still working, and we are hoping that yes, at least we can start.
Honestly, tell us all, has money been a challenge apart from the challenge of getting those plant species that you require?
Sir, at times, yes, we do have to think about it. But I think my school is a little generous about it. They do understand because we are working on SDGs, we wholeheartedly. But yeah, at times I think to get all the drip irrigation system done and being laid and to procure the soil and everything. So that
Great.
particular piece of land itself is like, okay, we have got it first. And then,
Great.
so things will be challenging later.
Amanda, she comes from a school to the north of Bangalore. If you're heading toward the airport, for example, on somewhere to the east of it, you will find it. Doesn't matter. Now, well, she came to us and she said, "Hey, I managed to get," and she did this of convincing the management in less than 3 weeks, Amanda. And then she said, "Hey, all of you help me to find those species that we need in order to create that cluster." Somebody mentioned Miyawaki earlier. We've been saying, hey, Miyawaki is not the right way to go. There are very indigenous, native ways of doing this. And we had one inspiring session maybe 3 weeks ago. I don't know if she's here from Pune just now today here, Mrinalini. If you're here, you can say hello to us, Mrinalini. And you know what happened, Amanda? Suddenly things transformed. Now we have formed a small group. I don't know if Kashfa is getting all the help that she needs, but we're saying we will get you the plant species that you need to make this happen.
So
Dr.
I'm
Biraja.
really, I
Yes,
would
yes,
like
yes,
to interrupt.
yes,
So
yes, Kashfa.
Neil Matthews, sir, I connected to him over call and he guided us to some Shiju, sir. So we are going to that place tomorrow with my vice principal to procure some saplings. And I'm
Lovely.
really like helpful to Raghunath, sir, because he has laid the entire plan. And Runalini ma'am has been guiding me. I'm really thankful to Niranjan Khatri, sir, and you that I am into the group
You
and
see
things are
this,
taking
Amanda.
place.
Wow.
You see this, Amanda, how the community meeting like this, we don't stir out of our homes. Mary sits where she does half a globe away. I'm sitting here in Bangalore. I haven't seen Kashfa at all. And look at what this platform has done to us. Kaiden, you want to listen? You want to respond to what she's saying just now? Ah, lovely to see you there. Lovely to see you there. Yeah, keep your glasses on. You look very, yeah,
Academic. Yeah,
academic
I have
indeed.
I have a question that was raised by someone in the chat just on our engagement with the poor versus, meeting the needs. And Chakri, maybe you want to expand on that, because we can touch the hearts of the middle class who can see things and go places, but even they don't go and connect with their waters, so they lack appreciation and don't understand the value of that. But Chakri, did you want to unmute and
Yes.
expand on your thoughts on touching the hearts by healing
Right.
the
And
needs
before
of the poor?
Chakradas speaks, let me tell you that he did a long stint out there at Virginia Tech, I think, in Texas. He's now in Mumbai. Yes, Chakrada, over to you.
No, so yeah, that's Virginia Tech and University of Houston. But
Houston, that's right.
yeah, I think the point is not everybody in India is, or the younger generation is in the school. So that's the problem. And the number of people the number of children in school is quite low. And I think this is one of the things I think maybe I will ask Aarti to speak about it. What happens in a community and why do they not take action? And so we kind of put in, for action to happen, there are two other things that need to happen. One is essentially somebody needs to ensure their well-being, and there should be a method or an approach to build on social connection. So then you get action. Otherwise, without the other two pieces, you won't. So Aarti, over to you.
And Aarti, before you speak, remember that Amanda is going to come back to India. We want to excite her to see what she can do on the two rivers that girdle this city of Bangalore. I'm going to take her through the mess of both those rivers. So over to you. This guy, Kaiden, needs help. You know the kind of inspiring work you have yourself done mentoring many, many people, Aarti. Over to you.
Right. Thank you, sir. And Amanda and Kaiden, my heartiest congratulations to you for developing what you have, because it takes a lot of courage and a lot of passion to really find solutions to problems and solutions that can work, that are more connected to the land. So I'm a big Star Trek fan, and I've started following this prime directive that there are certain spaces you cannot interfere, right? So studying those is actually the topmost priority of any kind of social intervention and social innovation. So I think you actually took the first step in the right direction. Now, coming to what Dr. Chakradhar was saying, the challenge in India is in the academic context, there is no relevance of education that is impressed upon. It is a very competitive environment. It is an environment which is very transactional in terms of acquiring education or learning or improving yourself thereby. And this is something that has to be addressed at a more behavioral level in the communities, in parent communities, in teacher communities. That how do we step up to? It's like, I'll give you an example. So I was talking to this one kid, and I asked him. I said, what would you want to become? He said, I want to become an architect. I said, what is so? So then I worked backwards with him until I told him that trigonometry is something that you find all around yourself. So when you look at a pillar or you look at a corner of a building, how do you think math appears to you, right? So this relevance and this connection with education and how they can really apply what they're learning and also have more value for it and therefore become more exploratory in terms of their curiosity level. So this is the whole string of challenges that are there in the academic, the school education specifically. They have a mandate, they have a target that they have to complete. But of course, there are emerging examples, amongst us, like Kashfa, who are doing some phenomenal work in sort of expanding that purview. Yeah. But thank you for the work you're doing. It's wonderful. And Kaiden, seriously, salute.
Amanda, sorry, Mary, go on.
Oh, I just wanted to hear, thank you, Artie. I think you have the beautiful example of small starts, allow for people to expand. And as you're working from the UN, is there any advice you would give to the students? Not that we're supposed to be getting advice from the next gen right now, but any advice you would give or ask?
Well,
Mary will expunge the word advice.
Yes,
like
absolutely. I was just going to
Aarti.
say that. I was actually going to start with that. I may not have advice, but I do have apologies for the crappy world that we've handed over to you to correct. But some of us are still game as far as your plans are concerned. So reach out anytime for whatever you need. Maybe it's a direction, maybe it's a connection, maybe it's a forum. We can all put our hands on deck and support you there.
Yeah, beautiful. And if those of you who are willing to be mentors, I told Kaiden and Amanda that they would get a lifetime of mentors and partners. I guess we don't even need advice givers, but instead partners in this mission. Please go ahead and put your emails in the chat so they can connect. But Amanda Beck, your thoughts on what Artie has said.
Really appreciate that. And I think the perspective of like first of all, I think back to a lot of the teachers that shaped me, right? The people that really empowered me to see in a different way in architecture school, and even in, I mean, when I remember going through high school and being like, I love art and math. What do I become? You know, and I studied architecture. And I remember studying architecture, but the first time actually somebody teaching me to see and to showing me to see differently, I think there's something to that that awakened something within me. And so if we can just encourage people to be curious, and I think that's all ages, right? Like it's youth, and then I think reminding ourselves even as we age to continue to be curious and seek to be like, I don't know, consumed by wonder. I think there's such power to that. And I think that means that we'll actually do great things in the world, because when we get stuck, we stop seeing and we stop listening. And so I think there's some power to that.
Right. Dr. Biradar, I know you came back to India a few months ago. Maybe you're still, sort of nursing hopes of doing things. What is your take, having listened to all of these people? I didn't want you to speak earlier because I wanted you to listen to many of these people here who have been part of this group. After this, I will turn to Sureshji here, Suresh Ambli. Over to you, Dr. Biradar.
No, indeed, it's such a pleasure to listen to all these the wonderful initiative. First of all, thank you to you and all the teams here and connecting the world and the water-centric development. And I'm really glad to see that even the school children's coming with such innovative, even that is not able to get into the even higher level education system.
Can you tell them why you came back to India? Why you quit that lucrative assignment that you had?
Now, the reason that when I travel across the 50 countries and 25 different organizations, I felt that we talk a lot about the climate change and global change, something like that. Until we not do that on the grassroots level for the global change, it's not going to happen. And the grassroots level is not just about what we do in the villages, but also the education systems, schools, what you are doing like that, right? So people, the change that they don't know what is the textbook they're teaching, what is their practical knowledge. That's one side. Then we also look into a lot of the issues of the green growth and the green economic transition, sustainable development, and SDGs we talk about. And we not that SDGs designed about 30 years ago, and now we want to talk about still the sustainability or beyond the already sustainability, right? So that we're not that level, we are across that the threshold. So we have to do the anything, we have to restore, rejuvenate, and
you have presided over programs in Africa and here in India, from a larger organization, but not actually touching the ground on realities that need to be addressed. So what do you think that youngsters can be helped with? You know what Amanda said in the beginning? She says, hey, we still need help from you guys. You can't walk away from what you have done,
Yeah.
What do you think?
That's what the connectivity between what is happening on the global level. And see, often the people who make a decisions even never done the work on the ground. Even like when I'm asking about someone who's wanted to lead the big program, the tree planting, I said, how many trees you planted? He said that I planted about 3 or 4 times during when they invited me to in the inauguration of tree planting, right? So they're not really understood the issues on the ground level. What is the issue of the tree planting? How that you can address? There's like millions of trees we're planting. And just planting and forget is not going to happen. So we have to planting and caring of a long time. And also association between the vegetations, water cycle, infiltrations, and all things very interlinked each other. We cannot neglect them. Now all the people working in the silos, like a forest department, not looking into the agriculture side, in the water side, so that is all interconnected. So that you need to look into the kind of breaking the silos so that bring the change what required. And water is one of the pre-side, like whether water comes first or the tree comes first. Again, the same, the chicken egg concept, right? So here is very clear that so whatever waterfall that try to make hold them and try to go inside the ground. I think that is what the key thing. Vegetation comes there. Then also sometimes you can bring the vegetation, the water infiltrate. So these are the intrinsic things. And the green growth I'm talking about, anything you do in the world, whether the agriculture, whether processing, productions, educations, cloth, anything. So how best you can do the less impact on the environment in every possible way. It's what the required.
Amanda, another day I will see that I connect you to Dr. Biradar. his obsession today, magnificent obsession today, is what he calls green economic transition. He says, look, I can't stop the world from doing this GDP trajectory, right? This miserable thing. You go to Africa, every country is told you got to need 3% as GDP because you got a 2% growth in population. This is the lie that the World Bank wants to sort of foist on every such country. What Dr. Biradar says is, and we have all been saying for a long time, including Mary, is that we need to have, yes, a far larger ecological or a green footprint while you do what you need to do with economics and the economic progress and GDP that you want to have. But can we change this basic equation on GDP? Do we need to have this obsession with GDP at all and the percentages that every country is being foisted upon by development institutions? Is another question that we all need to be asking someday, Amanda. You need to be asking those questions and you need to be getting indignant about it, I think. Dr. Biradar, I will connect you to these people. I will turn now to Dr. Raval first before I turn to Sureshji, because Suresh Ambli comes from the context of trying to see what he can do. And Amanda, you got to listen to him. He will talk, Suresh Ambli will talk later about large tracts of land in a drought-prone taluka of Tumkur district, where he has done watersheds to hold water. You know that kind of challenge that we all have here. First, Ravalji, but before Suresh Ambli speaks. Over to you, Dr. Raval.
Thank you very much. Lovely session, but I have picked up one point from 5 speakers, 3 on the panel, 1 from Artiji and 1 from Dr. Biradar. Coming to Dr. Biradar, school children, leave them aside for a while. This is a book written by an environmental scientist in California. He's Dr. Peter Stott. It's a 300+ book. He's talking about climate, and he has an experience from Cortland to Kyoto and all other various IPCC. In my view, this is a trash, because the whole book, he has discussed everything under the sun, but without touching 3 points. One is microbes, another is soil, and third is soil moisture. It is the soil microbes which are primed to consume greenhouse gases. He doesn't know that. And like Artiji said, geometry, it's all mathematics discussed here. But architecture is seeing the function on an empty space. Architecture is a living subject. You see a function. Either you are building a classroom or a stadium or a theater. Okay. Now, coming to our 3 main speakers today. Nikki hit the very bull's eye. You know, Rain Ridge is not collecting water. If you read Richard Foreman, only single element having the highest ecological impact is transfer of goods. In Rain Ridge, water does not travel. It's not made to travel. And that is net gain in your energy, if energy auditors are at all concerned about. Number 2, Amanda showed one slide and there was the answer. And that picture was showing bioswale. Nobody discusses bioswales. We want to talk about the lakes and rivers and everything. But zero discharge stream, the actual microclimate reactor for water purification starts at the zero discharge stream. From there, they come to whatever the mapping that she has shown. And Kaiden, she said, 3 bullet points she said, budget and all that. Third was knowledge. We are not interested in knowledge. The GDP, the loftier the building, the deeper the foundation. So what we see above the ground is GDP or economy. But what is lying underneath is ecology. If you build economy without foundation of ecology, we have to go. The sooner the better. Thank you.
I think I fully agree with the Upendra ji. Thanks for that. Bring that one. Why forget the microbes, right? So when you address the holistic systems, it's very, very essential. When I put into the 5 highs into the entire green growth, if you bring the high biodiversity in the landscape or living, whatever you're doing it's whether the crop diversity, tree diversity, livestock diversity, human diversity, whatever. High diversity is linked to the high carbon sequestration in the soil, right? When the carbon sequestration happens in the soil as well in the vegetation, that links to the more water infiltrations and holding the more water in the soil, in the land, in the base flow, what you call the spring sets. If the 3 things addressed, automatically productivity will be going to happen. There's a function, productivity follows functions, and that happens automatically. Resource usage increases, our impact inevitably goes down, and that's going to equity, social inclusion. I think this is all the 5 is interlinked.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
The one point that this book is missing, in 100 years, last 100 years, the soil has lost 50 to 70% of the carbon.
exactly.
It is not fossil fuel. It is the right topsoil that we have destroyed.
Great. Quite. Now I'll turn to Suresh Ampli, but before Suresh ji, before you speak, yesterday, was it the day before, Mary Eggert sends me a small message which says the following. And since you're a Rotarian, this will interest you. She says that a few of them, one of the Rotarians who lives in California, he's not here today, his name is Greg. Greg searched 2,000 Rotary projects and could not find a single instance of a project supporting rainwater harvesting. And then she says, we assumed it to be too cheap to implement, and therefore it was not considered to be consequential by Rotarians who are looking at these things. And you are one of those key guys who looks at large projects. You raised, you said, $4 million or so in the last year, or this year you're hoping to raise. And then she says, we looked at Valve's work. The Rotary is very excited to see a solution that is separate from bore wells and reverse osmosis and RO and so on. The question we are attempting to address, she says, is why hasn't RWH been a factor until now in the world? How do you explain that or respond to that, Sureshji? You there? Did I miss you? She's gone off.
Did he drop off?
Oh my God! He just now
He
I
was
saw
he
him.
was nodding. He was right here.
He was right here. So you see that sometimes you see I'm jinxed. Sometimes as I say, Sureshji, are you there? No. Okay, he'll come back and then we'll talk to him. So, well, I asked this question all of you. Look at this, Amanda. You heard me. You heard what Mary said. Why are we not looking at this very, very utterly simple solution? In fact, Dr. Raval writes, I think 2 or 3 days ago in a wonderful group that we have, and we can invite you to be part of that. And he says, in a very resigned tone, he gets tired and fatigued with all of us, who don't listen to him or who don't want to do things to catalyze change of the kind that he wants. Look at him laughing away. So Ravalji says, there is only one solution, and it's staring at us right under our nose, rainwater harvest. You take a city like Bangalore, since you're speaking about Bangalore too, Amanda, 70% of the city's water need can be met if we only harvested water. I didn't say this. Somebody from the Indian Institute of Science, a man called T.V. Ramchandra, you might have met him, is a guy who says this. And he says, look, I can give you all the facts and the numbers. I know them too. I worked on watersheds for 30 years now. We won't do it. So how do we get people to look at these things and do it? And how do we get this abomination called government and all these monsters called politicians to actually listen to these things? Dr. Biradar and I were having a chat 2 days ago, I think. And he was saying he met some minister, let's not take names. And he says, yeah, they will do it, but. And I know the tone that he was taking. of fatigue, of resignation and such. What do you think we should be doing, Amanda or Nikki? Go on, Nikki, you can speak. I know you have a viral. Thank you for being here, despite your whatever fever.
I think there are two parts to this. See, from this, most governments, or at least most people within the government, really don't know what needs to be done. I mean, they all acknowledge that they have this issue, they have a problem, and they all say, okay, I know I have the issue. You tell me what needs to be done. Now, in this space, there are two parts to this, right? Like now you can say, you can go give them like a cookie cutter model and say, okay, this is what we're going to do. We're going to install 150 of something which will solve one part of your sewage solution say septic tank and whatever else. The other, which is slightly harder, but I think is far more sustainable in the very, very long term, is to push policy. The simple idea that we as a forum have been pushing, thanks to Ravalji, of sludge-free sewage. If we can bring that as a policy that says, if you're building a home, if you're building an apartment, whatever you're building, the septic tank has to be built in such a way that the discharge from it has to be sludge-free. If just that we can achieve, then this other this murderous capital expenditure that governments love to spend, maybe we can stop a little bit of that.
Right. Vijay, I'll come to you. Thank you for raising hand. But Amanda, you know what he said essentially is, these guys sitting in administration and in government don't want anything more than 2 paragraphs and 3 minutes of their time to be claimed. Pompous guys, right? So how do we get their attention and get them to goddamn do something? Sorry about that. Amanda.
What's interesting, so I came in like right after the K100, the project at Mod Institute, and the local, there was
Did
like
you meet that guy? Did you meet Naresh?
Yeah, Naresh and I became besties.
I'm sure.
What was really interesting was seeing what that took, like actually having the conversation with him about like what that actually took, and obviously knowing that like he had been part of those conversations for years before that conversation started, right? And so I think part of it is like having an in. It seems like having an in some way is like the only way to get things actually done, or I don't know if it's a money thing or if it's a power thing, whatever it is, but somebody in power or with money has to care enough to continue to be the squeaky wheel, is what I'm seeing. And but I also think it comes from like two directions. I think it comes from that sort of like who you know, rubbing elbows situation, but then I think it also comes from actually engaging with the community, which is what I think they were doing really well. And I got to sit in on some of their conversations with the community and saying what are the issues, right? Like, what are the issues? Where is the sewage coming in to the like drain? Like, who is responsible for this? How do we clean this up? How do we, I remember this one conversation, they had found that the actual sewage pipe went, like, it's supposed to be gravity fed, right? It's supposed to go like from one point to the other and it's supposed to go down the whole way. And they were finding that there was like sewage that was, every time it rained, it like kept coming back. They're like, what's happening? And so they ended up like uprooting it, or sort of taking it up, and realizing that the design was incorrect, right? It went like down.
I got that. No, I was asking you this one question that Nikki put up. In 3 minutes, in 100 words, how do we get a fellow in the government to say, hey, this is something I will institute as a legislative process? I leave that there. Before I come to you, Sureshji, I must tell you this, and Vijay Raj is here, another old champion. I know him for 15 years now. But Sureshji, you strategically dropped out at a time when I was explaining something to you.
No, my battery was down. I need to change my iPhone, basically. I'm going for the new one, in fact.
I'll,
I mean,
I'll very, very briefly, I went about it in an elaborate way, but I'll tell you briefly what Mary said yesterday or the day before. She says that some 2,000 Rotary projects were searched out by another Rotarian in California, and he could not find a single instance of rainwater project being funded, sponsored, supported by the Rotarians. And why? They assumed it to be too cheap to implement it, is inconsequential, she writes. Over to you, and you can talk to Amanda and the youngsters here of your wonderful work in Pavagada, or whatever you want to tell them. You've been supporting large projects. Over to you, Suresh.
How much time I have been given now? I have to...
Maybe about 3 minutes, 2-3 minutes.
Well, then I need to be very compact and this thing. But
we'll get you another opportunity to speak to us on another day.
As far as your first this thing, the question of whether the Rotary has been addressing the rainwater harvesting, be it on a reverse osmosis, the bore wells, or this thing. Yes, we have taken up this particular project. We don't take up that as an individualistic one. We always believe in a holistic and a comprehensive, inclusive, all inclusive. Like supposing we are developing a school or an Anganwadi or a center there. What we do is in the schools, we either build up the wash areas both for the girls and the boys. We knew that the girls, there is a dropout is heavy, and also when we do a wash area, we also give the technology of going in for a whatever the local way of water supply is there, we take it up. But mostly in a small talukas, what we are in their language we call it as counties, there is no water distribution system there. So we need to depend totally on a locally available water, which is obviously a bore well. So it is an integral part of it. We don't develop that as only one part of it, but we take it as an holistically and a bore well, and then a softener if it is required, if it is for a purpose of even the domestic usage, drinking purpose, and then wash areas and cleaning up that. So what we do is we comprehensively make that, we build the wash areas, we build the hand wash, and how also scientifically that can be reutilized in the whole purpose of it. So way back, almost 30 years back, we have done in association with our good partners from, I call it as, we have a local called as host clubs as the Rotarians here in part of Bangalore and India, and then we have the international partners that all over from USA who are always helping us, and also from UK. So these things have been addressed, but not on a scale that you are all looking at as an as we are concerned more on the development of that. So there is a part of it that we are addressing on that. One good point I would like to, this thing is now all these things can need to be put it in a package format and a module of sizes A, B, and C. That is in terms of costing, in terms of the project sizing, and in terms of the time that is required. If these packages can be worked out, then we can take it as the Rotary Foundation.
That's process, Sureshji. My question to you is this. I'll quote you now. You said, obviously a bore well, and of course a softener. This is exactly what we are saying people should not be doing. We are saying, thank you so much, please do not do that. We will tell you how else, what the alternative solutions are.
Exactly. I am not a doctor, but we still run an dialysis centers. We are also doing the 3D printed these things, and also heart surgeries. But we only connect and get the specialist job and then go ahead. And it is a fantastic job that you are all there as the the inputs for us. I personally, luckily I'm a technocrat as a civil engineer, and then come the Rotarian. So I may have a little better knowledge, but my other friends or this thing, they are in a different occasions that they will have been exiled, and they may not be in a position to get into that. We will certainly get into the whatever the wonderful work the Amanda and all your other friends who would be doing so much, and why the hell they should do it in a place called Bangalore. Bangalore is our place, and we should be more concerned about it. I'm really thankful to them. Now coming on to the small works, what we have been doing, like, because I being a civil engineer and a structural engineer and an architect, doing this particular place called Pavagada is been notified by the government of Karnataka as one of the drought-prone area, arid zone of the Karnataka, wherein which it hardly rains for a day or two, maybe 1 or 2 or 3 rains comes. Now, what has happened is we studied that particular place. We always believe in a quantum assessment of the need assessments and then take up the project and then implement. It is not because that it is favorite to me or something like that. Now, what happened was there is a huge fluoride content in this particular, even in the little water, what they have is there is a high content of fluoride and also arsenic. And we used to see the people there at around 20, 25 or 30 bent like a bow. They are bent, they have become old. They have become like a 65 or 70-year-old women or men. So we consider that there has to be something which needs to be done. Having made an elaborate study on that, we said, no, what are the best solutions for this? Getting the water from somewhere else? Or how do we generate a water, or going to deep water resources and all? Then we said we'll come out with a locally available knowledge and locally available system and the nature given one what is there. So there is, Pavgada is with a lot of hillocks around, luckily. Though it is very hot place, God forbid, and like the temperatures goes up to around 50 degrees or so. And also earlier it was a Naxalite prone place. It's very difficult for people to go there. But then we took this as a challenge and then said that we need to build very local, using local technology, locally available materials, and for the needs of the performers. It is an economical development for the
people. For a longer narrative that you will offer us, we will invite you for another Thursday.
Excellent. I'll just cut short on that we built that around 14 or 15 of them. Now the water resources are available to all the villagers there, and the green plantation has been done. We want to convert this area to Western Ghats. Western Ghats, where there is a huge lot of rains, because rain attracts the green attracts the rain. And vice versa.
Initiative
Thank you, sir.
Signed, and Nikki knows this because he's been working on some. I must tell you that there are many such initiatives in regions which receive less than 500 mm rainfall of the kind that he was talking about. In fact, if you took the road past the airport, you traveled another 2.5 hours. On the left, you will see something called SEDS, Seeds Education Society or whatever. There's another one called Timbuktu Enclave, I think it is. So these are all people who have worked on large tracts. I'm talking maybe 400, 500 square kilometers of work. Multiply that by 100, you know the number of hectares. So Timbuktu Collective, it's called, Nikki says. We are 90 minutes past, and Mary will, will wield the stick if I continue anymore. I think Vijay Raj wanted to say something. Vijay, you're here. You worked with the Water Supply Board for many years. You tried to see how you can charm them into doing things. Vijay, are you here, Vijay Raj?
Yes, sir. Good evening, everyone. The main thing, as far as the Rotary is concerned, because I'm the part of the Rotary this year and I've been working with Rotary. Rotary is in India, particularly Rotary is taking a lot of rainwater harvesting projects. If you take this year around, already we must have around 40 to 50 rainwater harvesting projects in Bangalore district alone. My hand, I have got about more than 16 projects in hand about Rotary under CSR program. A lot of work, if you take the district of Surat and all, if you take the districts from Mysore and all, they're all taking up rainwater harvesting today. And water is being given a lot of importance. And as I said, small things, individual rainwater harvesting, wherein they're putting this rainwater harvesting into the tank for the reuse. In Pavgada also we are doing, now also we are doing about 3 schools wherein we are providing them the drinking and cooking water with rainwater. So a lot of things, really the small scales, a lot of CSR money is coming. People today, when we talk about rainwater harvesting in the CSR, they are ready to fund it. They themselves tell ki, okay, fine, what you are doing for rainwater harvesting. So this is a positive thing which has come. I've seen changes happening in last 3 years. A lot of positive things are coming as far as the rainwater harvesting concerned, with both rooftop rainwater harvesting as well as groundwater recharging. One very interesting thing which has come up in last 2 years is, people are very much, inclined towards the open well, the shallow water usage. That is, very positive sign, and I'm very happy that people have realized that shallow water is something which has to be used, and it is available in plenty.
Right.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Vijay, for chipping in. Ankur, though you were supposed to speak, you haven't, gotten a word so far in this session. You want to say something? You want to say hello to Amanda and Kaiden and
Yeah,
everyone? Yes, please.
yes, absolutely. I've been hearing you all, and
Ankur
can you hear me
is,
well?
yeah, we can
Yeah.
hear you.
Okay.
Ankur is just, he did his master's or a year's program, I think, at Ashoka University. He blends
Correct.
architecture, design, and a few esoteric things.
Correct.
Kafka was part of his study. He says how you can relate Kafka to architecture and in the Indian context. I have not yet figured out. Over to you. Over to you.
Right. No, thank you, Dr. Hari, and thank you, Mary, for giving this sort of tone to this session. And Amanda and Kaiden, I'm sort of particularly excited by things that you mentioned around these possibilities of digital infrastructure, right? Through the software that you built, Kaiden, especially for somebody like me who does not have an sort of academic background to understand these challenges, can more easily relate to the sort of democratic accessibility that digital infrastructures provide in understanding such challenges when visualized on screen, right? Where through this sort of color coding and those kind of things, I can visualize erosion in relation with the terrains and also in particular time frames, right? That over what period these things are happening, and also its possibility to do the archiving of these things, right? That how do we archive erosions in real time, right? That and then we can relate them to particular geological things as well. I'm right now in Kerala, where this film festival I'm attending, it got postponed due to the floods that happened of recently, right? And where most of our and again, like, these incidents are only fresh of the memory until the next such tragedy happens, right? And then we start talking about the next event, right? But then with a software like this, and I am more, I mean, we can have perhaps a longer conversation about this. If you have faced any challenges in your context with the adaptation of this, right? I mean, I can think of such challenges with the.
So let's ask Kaiden, Ankur.
Yeah,
Kaiden,
correct.
Is
Correct.
there a way of saying that 4 weeks from now there's going to be a slide and a massive erosion on that coast where you love to surf? Kaiden.
Sadly not, because our model is a predictive model, so it estimates it on the annual basis. So what you could do is you could say, okay, so within 10 years from now, what's going to be the erosion rate? But yeah, sadly, it's not predictive on that basis.
Right. But we got to get there someday soon, right?
Right.
That would require the weather predicting, having that too, right?
Absolutely. Over to you,
It would be
Mary.
nice if we could predict all of that.
Yeah.
Ravel G.
Yeah. Yes, Raji, go on.
A question to Amanda. Were you a part of Azim Premji campus
She was.
coming up? Okay.
She was.
What is the length of swale drains along the roadside on the campus?
Sorry, say that again.
On the campus,
What is the work done
swale drain
inside the
that you have
campus
provided?
on swales and drains and harvesting of water?
Swale drain is
Oh
one
no,
word.
you're gonna get me in trouble.
It's one word. Sorry.
Yeah.
I would say that it is not
Next to nothing.
water is not considered
You
in
see,
the
this is
plan.
what, you see, there is a video which I'll send to you. Dr. Raval talks about the hypocrisy, clean water and the hypocrisy of industrial civilization, if I'm getting it right. So the challenge is this, Amanda, and you know why I stopped you when you ran the first set of slides? I said, what is this, gossamer world, where there are these wonderful middle-class guys talking about all these grim issues that we have got. No one wants to go out there and dirty their hands, and you talked about dirtying hands, Amanda. You heard Sureshji talking, and I can tell you he's modest. He's a very distinguished engineer. distinction, when he did his mechanical engineering. Then he goes to IIT Bombay, comes back, he does something which is very interesting and innovative just now in his field of engineering. But he went down there, worked with his hands, spent some days. Not enough people are willing to do that. Look at Ravalji. Yeah,
Sir, we are in the crisis of abundance. I had occasion to study Azim Premji campus drawings for nearly 2 months, and there was no
You must go,
consideration.
Kaiden, great day to you. Thank you so much for staying on so far.
Yes, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, yeah.
There was
Great to have you with us. Good job.
Yeah, yes, sorry, Raj.
Yeah, there was no mention of serious attention to water and wastewater.
I know. Christopher Benninger, the architect of many of those buildings on the university, just now died 3 days ago. God bless his soul. And he used to say the same. Hey, I know every time I would meet him, he would go into, of course, some F's and B's when talking about that campus. But he would say, hey, these guys are not connecting into what needs to be done. But I think we have run out of the time. It's nearly 100 minutes. Mary is frowning already. Mary, the last word from you. Thank you so much for this series on, you call it Soul Search. Thank you so much for getting, you're thinking through things. If you got Amanda and this bright, young, wonderful lad, we need to learn from these guys. Kaiden was very right on many things that he said, and the recording will be available, as Mary said in the beginning. We'll put it up in a way that we'll give you video extracts also on timestamps. Over to you, Mary.
Yes, well, I think you said we're at 100 minutes. I think we've covered everything we wanted to cover with a beautiful audience contributing as well. So thank you everyone for your insights, and as importantly for your ears. I think that's what Amanda and Kaiden have made me aware of, our need to listen more. And that's I've so enjoyed learning from you, Amanda, and your she actually had a whole additional chapter of pieces she's done. And I said, Amanda will all be overwhelmed and can't keep up. So please just keep it focused on these specific things.
Absolutely.
But get her back to Bangalore. And Kaiden does have a software that's in development. It does right now use US info. So if anyone has US sites they'd like to check, or it's freely available to people who will provide guidance. So his links are in there, and we will provide these recordings on the Global Waterworks site, as well as in the WhatsApp story. So I'm always energized by you all.
Yes, Mary. Amanda, I must tell you, there's a guy here called Adrian Nihal. This guy works about 200 in Mangalore, towards 200 kilometers west of Bangalore. He works not in Mangalore, not in the city. He works on with a bunch of farmers, and he has another lovely, inspiring story to say. He'll be working there with a small set of people. He says only one guy does not get onto the field, in a note that he sends to all of us. There is another guy here called Mahesh. He's been working with about 10, 12 schools, raring to go at about 40, 50 schools, if only he's given the money to sort of do the basic hardware. The rest of it he knows how to do. Inspiring the children, not teaching the children, sharing experiences with them, connecting them to what they get on their rooftops and how it helps them to go net zero water, shall we say, to use another of those kind of cliched words and phrases. The thing is, Neil Matthews, amazing guy again, Amanda. You got to know him. You got to meet him when you're next in Bangalore. He has not taken a liter of water from any grid source or any other source. He's got he's a water utility himself, at his house. And he's got a small house. He doesn't have anything very large. Vijayaraj spoke, but he didn't say enough of what he's been doing. He's done about 200,000, 300,000 buildings probably. Chandra, he's not speaking today. Chandra has done 500,000 households with no reverse osmosis, with a system, with a non-RO filter, non-RO filtration system. There are many others here. I can go on, and that will take another 30 minutes. I don't want to do that. But I'll only say this to you, youngsters like you, Amanda. Please change the demographics of this group. Get people under 35 to populate this group every Thursday and that first Friday of the month that Mary hosts. We can't have too many of us with the silt in our heads, in our ideating process, to be talking. We need to listen to you. Seriously, we want to listen to you. While you're a good listener, or you said you learned to listen when you came into this set of processes here. There is so much to be done in one city. There is a lot more to be done in the world. We all know that. I would urge you to bring in people, whoever you think will listen. People like Aarti are here. Look at her, 100 minutes, and she's still here. And I can tell you, she's an incredibly impatient person. She wants to get everything done day before, or the last week or year, right? And she's worked with so many people across communities. And she has this tendency to lapse into the language that she speaks with those communities, and she's consciously avoided that today. So here are people who want to really do things, Amanda, and I keep telling Nikki and Ankur and many others like that, Kasva needs help. I just now sent her a message saying, connect with me tomorrow. I'll get you somebody who will give you maybe 300 saplings, right? So the thing is that this needs a great deal more support. This forum will not mean action if it's not to do with people like you who are under 30 and who want to take and run with it. Mary, thank you so much for all that you do. Last word has to be yours.
Oh, I say, have a beautiful weekend, everyone.
All right.
It's been a pleasure.
Namaskar.
Thank you to everyone.
Thank you.